4 generations, Job's Better Milk has been no idle slogan. The Roberts family have made certain of that. Today, Douglas Roberts and his brother Alan are the principal descendants of over half a century of progress in the milk industry. And now Douglas's son Simon is in the business to carry on the family tradition. But how then did the name Job come into the story? To answer that, we must recall events of 100 years ago at Shipperdene in Gloucestershire on the Severn Estuary. Life on a farm in the 1860s was very busy for young Louisa Barber, for not only did she keep house for her father and brothers at Lowgoods Farm, but she managed their dairy as well. The picturesque appearance of Lowgoods has survived over 100 winters and summers, along with the carved initials of one member of the Barber family. In 1869, at the age of 19, Louisa moved to another house as the bride of E.J. Roberts, a local farmer, but deciding that the farming life of those days was not for them, they moved to Teddington in Middlesex to open a dairy business there in the High Street. In 1896, however, E.J. Roberts died, and the name of the business eventually became that of Louisa's second husband, H.A. Job. H.A. Roberts, a son by her first marriage, took over in 1919. In 1930, the people of nearby Hanworth saw in their midst the building that was to become a landmark, Job's new dairy. A tribute, no less, to Louisa Job and the outstanding foresight of her son, H.A. Roberts, who was to play an active part for the rest of his life. By today's standards, production was small, but Louisa Job must have felt very proud as she officially opened the new plant in June 1931, with her family and so many friends around her. But don't let's dwell on past glories. The Roberts family certainly don't, because they're only interested in the continuity of Job's Better Milk. So now we'll turn to this title, Better Milk, to see what it really means. To trace this story, we must travel westward again, but now to lush pastures in Berkshire and Hampshire. It's here that the milk is produced from hundreds of farms. One such is Maidenhatch Farm, near Pangbourne, an attractive name for its equally attractive herd of Jersey cows, one of the Channel Island breeds. Or it could be this farm near Alton, with its fine herd of Ayrshires. These are but 2 of the many such farms supplying milk to Job's dairies. The old-fashioned idea of bucket and stool milking is just not good enough. In these days of hygienic, swift milk production, where modern methods leave nothing to chance. In the first place, a bacteriologist from the laboratory makes routine visits to all the farms. She inspects the milking equipment and ensures that it's all properly cleaned and sterilized, and indeed that the general conditions of milking leave nothing to be desired. The farmers supplying Job's are just as anxious that everything shall be correct, so they welcome this regular inspection, the first step in the stringent laboratory control of Job's Better Milk. This modern milking parlour, which is on Manor Farm at North Waltham, is becoming increasingly common. Twice a day, the Ayrshire cows begin the familiar routine as one by one they're let into their individual stalls. While some rations keep them happy, the herdsmen have a lot of work to do, making the floors spotlessly clean and washing and grooming the cows. These operations are regular precautions before any milking takes place. By drawing off the fore milk, the herdsman is both rinsing the teats and at the same time checking that the cow's udder is healthy. Now, at last, the modern, clean and sterilized, vacuum-operated milking machine can be attached. This is just another labor-saving device in these parlors, but its flexible rubber teat cups gently draw off the milk straight into weighing jars, thus eliminating any human contact with the milk at all. When the herdsman is satisfied that the milking of a cow is over, he has no lifting of milk to do. Instead, the yield in the weigh jar is automatically registered on a scale. An even more modern device is an overhead microphone.
BB the second, 20 pounds.
Which transfers his voice to a nearby tape recorder. By playing back the tape later, the farmer has all the necessary information for his records. After each use, the teat cups are rinsed in a sterilizing solution before being attached to the next cow, while in the interests of efficiency and hygiene, overhead pipes convey the milk direct to the cooling room. It's important that the temperature of the milk is reduced without delay to preserve keeping qualities, so here it's fed over a cooler before passing into sterilized churns. All that now remains is for the churns to be collected by lorries calling at many farms in the area, an area which is spread over 6 counties: Hampshire, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire, Middlesex and Surrey. The driver first rolls off enough empties, which already have been cleaned and sterilized, ready for the next milking. Every churn awaiting collection is labeled, giving the name and address of the farmer and the time of milking. Although the churns are heavy, they can be swiftly moved by skillful handling, and in just a few minutes' time, the driver can leave for the next farm on his route. But even here, Jobs have not relaxed their interest in the very latest techniques, for churn collection is to some degree being replaced by bulk collection, as will be seen on this farm. The milk from the parlour is transferred away through pipes, as at Manor Farm, but instead of passing over a cooler, it goes direct into a stainless steel refrigerated tank. To replace the churn lorry is a road tanker. The tank, made of stainless steel, insulates the milk from the outside air temperatures. This early morning collection is typical of a system which is becoming increasingly common. due to its speed and labor-saving features. Nevertheless, there must still be rigid controls on quality and hygiene. A tanker driver, who is a trained milk receptionist, begins his routine with a check on the tank's temperature and then a visible and nasal inspection of the milk. As the quantity of milk cannot be measured in this case as so many churns, the receptionist takes a reading with a dipstick. Now he switches on an agitator, which gently yet thoroughly mixes the cream layer on the milk while he notes down the gallonage reading and leaves a receipt for the farmer. In contrast to the heavy churns we saw at Manor Farm, the milk receptionist merely has to connect up a hose to the tank on this farm. By now, the agitator has completed its job of mixing, and a sample for later inspection in the laboratory can be taken, which is fully representative of the milk's hygienic quality and food value. So, finally, the milk can be transferred to the tanker, and in a very short space of time, the collection is finished. An increasing number of these insulated vehicles is being used, but no matter what the system of collection, it's important to remember that the milk has been produced rapidly, under controlled conditions, and no time is being lost in taking it to Job's pasteurizing and bottling dairies. One of these is in Berkshire, at Didcot. It will be difficult to find more attractive surroundings for the dairy, which Jobs have created here in their well-laid-out gardens, but we mustn't become too absorbed by these to forget the vital role of Didcot in serving so many Job's customers in Berkshire, Hampshire, and Oxfordshire. The strategic position of Didcot in relation to these areas ensures that their customers are receiving milk quickly, and that means it's just that bit fresher. To see Job's other dairy, we return to Hanworth in Middlesex. Here, as at Didcot, the milk arrives in both insulated road tankers and in churns. For indeed, it's at the reception dock that the next stage begins in the better milk story, as the driver hands in his load sheet. Jobs demand really high quality from all their producers, so nothing but the best will do. Winter and summer, every single churn is examined by men skilled through many years of experience who can detect at once if the milk is not up to Job's standard. There's no hesitation with suspect milk. A special side conveyor is waiting for just such a churn, and a qualified laboratory assistant is there to take a sample for rabbit testing to confirm the checker's examination. This then is the first of many stringent tests the milk undergoes during its brief journey through the dairy. If the test is positive, on goes a rejection label, and the milk is returned to the producer. For the satisfactory milk, the next step is an automatic tipper, emptying churns at a speed of 12 to the minute into a weighing bowl. From this point on, throughout the rest of the journey, complete mechanization takes over. When the checker has passed all the churns from one producer, his labels are handed in at the weigh office where the volume of milk is recorded on an illuminated scale. So that routine samples for hygienic and food values can be made available to the laboratory, Jobs have developed and installed this automatic sampler. Now the producer's load can be drained from the weighing bowl into a main reception tank below, while up above his empty churns and their lids are fed automatically into a machine which washes and sterilizes them inside and out at high temperatures. Churns come out at the far end, dry and sterile, which means that they're all set for a final inspection before return to the farms. But now we must move on with the milk. From this point, right through its journey to the bottle, the milk is in contact only with polished stainless steel. From here, it's pumped to the pasteurizing plant. This room of what can be called clinical efficiency is the next step in Job's Better Milk, because pasteurization destroys all harmful organisms which may be in the milk without affecting its rich flavor and food value. First in the process is this piece of equipment, the paraflow, which raises the temperature of the incoming milk to 72 degrees centigrade, that's 161 Fahrenheit, by heat exchange through stainless steel plates. First, by the already heated and pasteurized milk, secondly, by hot water. It now passes to a holder, remaining at this high temperature for 15 seconds, as required by the Ministry of Health. Afterwards, it passes over a heat-sensitive valve which makes it impossible for any improperly pasteurized milk to go forward for bottling. In the rare event that any milk is below temperature, it would be diverted for repasteurization. The pasteurized milk now re-enters the paraflow to be rapidly cooled to 3 degrees centigrade, 38 Fahrenheit, again by heat exchange through the plates, both by the cold incoming milk and afterwards by cold and chilled water. The milk then leaves the paraflow to be pumped into stainless steel balance tanks immediately before passing down to the bottling floor. The treatment of pasteurization has rendered the milk completely safe for consumption. The clinical efficiency of this plant is no boast, for examples of the high standard of hygiene are to be found everywhere, in spite of the milk being totally enclosed in stainless steel. During its journey through the paraflow, the heated milk is filtered at high pressure through a specially woven sterile cloth to ensure complete hygiene. The balance tanks must be cleaned and sterilized too, a job done not long ago by hand. Today at Job's, by pressing a button on this master control panel, these instruments automatically bring high-pressure jets into action for rinsing and cleaning with hot caustic and finally sterilizing solutions. In contrast to the old, laborious cleaning by hand, this modern engineering means that the job is done more efficiently and quickly. As a final check to see that the tank is absolutely clean before receiving any further milk, the laboratory is called in to take a swab. Attention to hygiene is now turned to the third and final stage in milk's swift journey through the dairy. All this careful preparation will be wasted if the incoming bottles back from the customer are not made just as clean and sterile. As with all other parts of the dairy, mechanization plays its part here in Job's emphasis on speed. For at each stroke, 40 bottles are lifted from the crates by pneumatically operated grippers, made of nylon to prevent the necks being chipped or cracked. Defects like these in a bottle would make it quite unsuitable for further use, so scrutineers maintain a constant watch. Milk bottles are in fact only on loan to the customer, and although some do get misused, most customers are cooperative and thoughtful enough to rinse and return them without delay. Rinsing out after use assists cleaning operations within this giant washing machine. The froth you can see on the outside of the bottles is in fact a special soap picked up off the conveyors, which has been applied to keep the conveyors clean and to enable the bottles to slide along smoothly without damage to themselves. This conveyor froth is soon to be removed, however, for once inside this thermostatically controlled machine, the bottles are drenched inside and out no fewer than 36 times by high-pressure jets of hot water, then hot caustic solution, hot water again, and lastly, sterile water. But yet again, because no chances are taken, these washing solutions are regularly sampled to check their efficiency, and as a double check, scrutineers at the discharge end of this giant machine make a final inspection of the bottles. Even the mains water in the machine is cleaner than you realize because it's sterilized before use. But the proof of the washing and sterilizing can only be found in the bottles themselves. So our policewoman of the dairy, the laboratory assistant, takes a sample from here as well. With all this check and double check, it's no wonder that all the bottles are sparkling clean and sterile when they pass along the conveyor that carries them under covers to the milk filling machines. Still at a temperature of 3 degrees centigrade, 38 Fahrenheit, the milk is now piped from the stainless steel balance tanks in the pasteurizing plant to the modern high-speed filling machines. In just 1 minute, this machine caters for a day's supply to perhaps 70 families by filling no less than 280 bottles. Maybe you'd like to count them. Yet again, the laboratory is there to take an hourly sample of the bottled milk. High-speed filling and handling from start to finish, along with stringent laboratory control, means that the Job salesman brings you milk that is both safe and fresh. no time is lost once the bottles have been recrated. Mechanization extends to the cold store, where automatic machines now stack the crates. After a short ride through the cold store, the crates emerge into the daylight again on the dispatch bank, where lorries are constantly loading. Now the milk has completed its short journey through the dairy, ensuring that it's in tip-top condition, ready for you to drink. We've taken some 13 minutes to tell you about this part of the story, but the milk can move much quicker than that. In fact, it's possible for the milk arriving in these churns to be pasteurized and bottled and be ready on the dispatch bank in only 9.5 minutes. Now it remains only for the many lorries to carry away this valuable product to Job's numerous depots for the milk salesman. During our journey so far, it has become obvious that the laboratory plays a most important role in ensuring the quality of Job's better milk. In addition to routine sampling, we've already seen in so many parts of the dairy, qualified bacteriologists carry out various tests. This first one is the fat test, designed to check the richness of the milk. From the samples taken on the churn reception dock by the automatic machine we saw earlier, small quantities of milk are transferred to testing tubes partly filled with sulfuric acid. After this, a little amyl alcohol is added to each. The tubes are now shaken to thoroughly mix the milk with the sulfuric acid and amyl alcohol, and then a centrifuge is used to separate the fat from the rest of the milk. While the centrifuge whirls away for 4 minutes, the bacteriologist returns to her samples to check the density of the milk. This is simply achieved by the small floating tube on the right called a hydrometer. But to return to the fat test. Once the centrifuge has finished, the tubes are placed in hot water for a few minutes, after which the fat content of the milk can be clearly read off. In this case, as you can see, it's over 4%. So now the result of these two tests, the fat test and the density test, gives the non-fatty solids, which, when added to the fat, indicates the total solids content of the milk. In another test, samples are placed in tubes containing a jelly. Any organisms present feed on the jelly and multiply rapidly when the tubes are placed in an incubator. The samples for this test come from the farms and the dairy, as we have seen. After incubation, the clumps of organisms have grown large enough to be counted under a magnifying glass. So, the fewer the clumps, the more hygienic the production methods. And in always considering these high standards, Jobs pays special attention to the health of their staff. This is the job of the medical officer, who calls once a week for consultations and arranges X-ray examinations. A lot of other services are essential for the smooth running of the dairy. These oil-fired boilers are in commission 18 hours a day, producing high-pressure steam for that giant washing machine, the pasteurizing plant, and indeed many parts of the dairy for similar purposes of cleaning and sterilizing. Next door, in contrast, is the heart of a refrigeration system that is capable of cooling 6,000 gallons of milk per hour from 21 degrees centigrade, that's 70 Fahrenheit, down to 3 degrees centigrade, 38 Fahrenheit, thanks to these huge compressors. But all this machinery would grind to a halt if regular attention wasn't received from highly skilled engineers in a number of trades. This engineer is working on the pneumatics of a decrater head in the bottle washing room, while a short distance away, an electrician checks his side of the business. Electronics, too, are part of this modern dairy. This apparatus detects whether the bottle caps are going on correctly. Good welding is necessary for the maintenance or modification of numerous machines, and for the same reasons, lathes must be skillfully operated as well. And apart from the machinery, there's the maintenance of various types of vehicles, so important if deliveries are to be made on time to the depots and to your doors. And talking of doors, it seems the right moment to take up the last leg in the better milk story. This Job's depot is at Sunbury in Middlesex, and at last we see that familiar figure, the milk salesman. He's loading his vehicle from the cold room, where the milk has been temporarily stacked on arrival from the dairy. The cold room preserves that essential part of milk's appeal to young and old alike, its fresh taste. At home, you can also preserve this quality for at least 3 days by using a refrigerator or really cool larder. But by leaving the milk in warm surroundings like a kitchen, you mustn't expect it to keep so well. The Job salesman is not concerned only with milk. The pace of modern life often leaves the busy housewife with far from enough time at the shops. Jobs take care of this by providing a wide variety of dairy products and groceries on their rounds, supplied from well-stocked serveries. The salesman has already loaded his vehicle with the milk and packaged goods. Now he collects his perishables. Why carry home things like butter, eggs, cheese, tinned goods and cereals when he can bring them to your door every day of the year? Just a last-minute order, and then the milk salesman is all set to begin his daily round. Out in all weathers throughout the year, he's an ambassador for Job's Dairy, so his vehicle and personal appearance are smart and clean. At this late stage in the story, attention to efficiency and hygiene is not relaxed. At the back of his vehicle is that mobile grocery shop with just the goods you need being brought right to your door. Although the salesman knows each customer's standing order, he's always mindful of special times, like the children's holidays or hot weather, or when there are guests in the house. Times when an extra pint, or perhaps some cream to go with the tinned fruit, may be especially welcome. The busy housewife appreciates the courtesy and speed of the Job's milk salesman. She hasn't time to gossip, and he has many other customers requiring his attention. Now our story is told. It really started far away in Gloucestershire 100 years ago, when Louisa Barber first saw the light of day. As she and her descendants, along with so many loyal employees, have all molded the dairy into its present form. Their objective has been but one: to produce milk of the highest quality. An objective so admirably expressed In those words, Job's better milk.
The bits of milk story bottles are here. They're the boys who bring good cheer. So open them up and you will see a drink so right for the whole family. One by one the bottles must go. Take their milk to folks you know. Take their rich, creamy taste. Hey there, milkman, do make haste.
Ha ha ha, hey hey hey, little brown cow, don't I love thee? Ha ha ha, hey hey hey, little brown cow, don't I love thee?
Try a glass of Joe's better milk. Down it goes as smooth as silk. That's the way, don't delay. Order some more for every day. The kids all love some, it's a date to reach those bottles in the crate. Oh, such goodness in a drink makes you feel right in the pink.
Ha ha ha, hey hey hey, little brown cow, don't I love thee? Ha ha ha, hey hey hey, little brown cow, don't I love thee?
Such a swallow, cool and long, makes them grow up big and strong. Oh, what energy, you'll agree, gives them all vitality. The better milk story you have seen, but do you realize what it means? It's a message to all of you. Drink more milk, that's a thing to do.
Ha ha ha, hey hey hey, little brown cow,